Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Pardo. Today, I welcome Kelly to the show. We're going to be talking about self-confidence, mindset, inventing yourself, and many, many more things. So a quick introduction to Kelly, and then we'll dive into today's conversation. So Kelly is one of the only female founders in the online space to build her company from 0 to 8 figures with zero debt, investors, or outside funding. Kelly is a former NFL cheerleader and Fortune 500 executive turned 8-figure entrepreneur, empowering thousands around the globe to achieve financial and lifestyle freedom through entrepreneurship. Kelly is also an 11-time international best-selling author, top 20 podcast host, and philanthropist who has been featured in major media such as ABC, NBC, Fox, and Forbes, as well as the recipient of prestigious awards such as the number 287 on the Inclusive 5,000 list, the CV Awards Woman of the Year, Titan CEO of the Year, and Inc.'s Best in Business. Well, Kelly, really looking forward to today's conversation, as I was just saying before we started. Obviously, there's a lot of things that you've achieved, and you sound like a very incredibly busy woman doing all these things and also putting a lot of good out to the world. That is kind of my perception of it. So thank you for all the value you're adding. So really, it'd just be really interesting to hear, first of all, what's got you so driven to do everything you're doing? Was it something from a young age? You just had this like drive? Was there maybe a turning point in your life? Yeah, maybe just hear a little bit about your story behind this.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. Well, I think it's been a significant evolution over the years, right? So, initially when I was first starting working, I had come from a family where I was on the free lunch line and, it was always a struggle with money and making ends meet and all of those things. And my mindset from a very young age was like, this is something that you can change, right? There's things in life that you can change and there's things in life that you can't, right? So those things that you can, it's like make the most of it and create the absolute best possible circumstances and outcome that you can. And so for me, starting early in my career, it was all about financial freedom and, how am I going to create this great life for myself and build wealth and all of those things. But, over the years, as I've actually, had that success and built, multiple online companies and achieved all those things that you read in my bio, now at this stage in my life, it's really about contribution. It's about really how do you touch and reach as many people as humanly possible and make as big of an impact as you possibly can. How do you pass on the things that you've learned to other people? How do you leave a lasting legacy, right? So I would say my mindset and focus has shifted significantly, which makes sense because as you move through the hierarchy of needs, of course, once you're like, those basic needs are met, you can really think about the big picture of how do you become a person of contribution, right? Not just a person of extraction or accomplishment.
Love it. Love it. A person of contribution. Now you've kind of gone through those.
Mhm.
And yeah, for me, it's kind of I always feel like very fulfilled, whatever the contribution is. And sometimes I used to think personally, contribution needs to be donating thousands, but yeah, actually, even just a kind gesture, I'm finding personally is a
Yeah.
really, really, really effective way of contribution. I don't know about you.
There's so many ways that
Mm,
contribution is experienced by people. I mean, I'll find sometimes contribution is picking up the phone and sending an audio message
mm,
to someone that comes back and says, I cannot believe I just got a message from the Kelly Roach, right? Like, and I'm sure people say that to you all the time. Sometimes it's just being a listening ear. Sometimes it's giving of your time. Sometimes it's giving of your treasure, your talent. Sometimes it is making a donation. I like to contribute to charity water, to build wells, to work on the water crisis. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways that we can contribute. But I think the highest form of contribution and the most important form of contribution is recognizing the gifts that were given to you by God
mm,
and doing your absolute best to fully utilize them, right? And that's something that everyone can do. It doesn't take a certain level of success to do that. It doesn't take a certain level of money to do that. It doesn't take a certain
Mm,
network or net worth. It's how do you recognize the gifts that you've been given and put them to work each day? And to me, that is the essence of contribution and gratitude, right? Being in gratitude for the gifts that were instilled in you for the purpose of exploiting them and sharing them and giving them to others.
mm, mm. With the gifts, a lot some people, and I've certainly been there, have kind of been like down at the kind of the rock bottom, or a place where things are like really challenging, and we're like, I know there's more. I'm not feeling so great, but I want to like move forward, and we're like, what are our gifts? Like, how do we identify
Yeah.
them? Like, for
Yeah.
maybe for that individual who feels a little bit stuck, have you got any guidance you would offer to start maybe unraveling some of that?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I would say is that every single one of us feels that way and has felt that way
Mm,
and feels that way over and over again, right? So I remember so many times at the beginning of my journey when I was completely unknown. I wasn't yet making money. I wasn't yet, getting recognition or having success. And I just kept thinking to myself, I know there has to be more. Like, this can't be it, right? This can't be it. I would always keep thinking that. And it's easy to sometimes question your gifts or your capability or whether or not you're capable or worthy of success when it's not yet materialized. But I think the important thing to remember, and it's so important that I put it on the cover of one of my books, and that's the iceberg, right? And the iceberg is just like the apple tree,
mm,
right? The apple tree grows underground for months and months and months to establish strong roots, right? So that it can produce and bear fruit and plant itself to be sturdy and secure for decades to come. And success in business and success in life is very similar to that, just like the iceberg. What you see above the surface is just a little tiny itty bitty representation of what is going on beneath the surface that is preparing you, cultivating you, and allowing you to become the person that can achieve the level of external and visible success that you want to create. And I think that's really hard to remember in our society right now because things are so visible and so, this instant gratification is kind
mm,
of the mentality of the day. But if you ever interact with people that have actually achieved very high levels of success at anything, they'll tell you they felt exactly like that. They felt like,
mm,
is this ever going to pay off? Am I ever going to be seen for what I can contribute? They believe that they have something inside of them, but it's not being recognized yet, or they're not being compensated for it. And there's the tale of two decisions, right? There's the people that keep going in spite of that, and they're resolute and they have fortitude and they continue forward on their mission without congratulations or applause. And then there's the people that abort the mission, right? They stop because they're not getting the applause, they're not getting the recognition, and you never hear about those people, right? The people that you hear about are the people that were able to sustain a commitment to their life's mission and to their journey, regardless of what the external validation did or didn't look like. And I think that's something really important to remember.
mm. Yeah, definitely. For me, it's sometimes when I've been in close proximity with people I've admired, and one of my mentors is a real high performance coach, and having the privilege to work alongside him in his business, it's really interesting to hear sometimes things you would never perceive someone going through as well, like
Oh,
the
yeah.
hardships, and even like the
Yeah.
ongoing work they're doing, like the
Yeah.
ongoing inner work, which I've learned in my journey is a never ending journey, right?
Yes.
It's always doing. I don't know about you, but I feel like I've got to do the. I'm never gonna have to finish my inner work and all working on my mind every single day. It's not like
No,
an end
it
point.
never ends. Success is earned every single day. And, it's very, very interesting because in the in the online world, the perception of what success looks like does not
Mm,
match in actuality the life and the day to day of someone who is actually successful. Because
Mm,
people that sustain success at a very high level, just as you just mentioned, someone doesn't get to a very high level of mindset or inner work and then say, okay, I'm done, check that box. The people that are able to sustain that performance, it's a never ending journey. It's constant incremental improvement, and that goes for all areas of life. And so it's just keeping that in mind and being able to draw the distinction between, like, the example of what it means to look wealthy versus what it means to be wealthy. And oftentimes
mm,
those two things look very, very different, right? But to the naked eye, you can be very confused.
mm. Yeah, I like the difference between looking wealthy and being wealthy, and then
Yeah.
really embodying it. It's one of my other
Yeah.
teachers learned from him about you. I think a quote he once said was, "You don't get wealthy, but until you become wealthy." And then he defined wealth and the whole like kind of level of it. And it was like he was also talking about when he became a Tony Robbins trainer. He said, "You don't." You become the trainer before you get the jacket. It was like really interesting.
Yeah,
So I love
for
that kind of
sure.
like level of
For
identity.
sure.
For you, Kelly, is there any kind of inner work? I'm always curious to hear. Is there any kind of inner work tools or practices that you really like doing? Like I know some people are big journalists, some people are like meditators, some people just like to exercise. I'd just be really curious if there's anything for you particularly like.
All of the above. So I'll just give an example for today. Woke up this morning, did a meditation with breathing exercises,
Cool.
did my my Bible study, went to the gym, and then began my workday. Right.
Mm,
So to answer your question, all of the above, and actually sitting right in front of me is my planner where I do all my written journaling, and my mantras, and all of those things. So all of it. And I'm not saying, I don't think there's any, I never prescribe,
yeah.
a morning routine or a way of being to anyone. I think you have to figure out what works for you. I think also you have the spaciousness in different seasons of life for different things. When I was working my day job as a Fortune 500 executive and building my business on the side, I was not waking up in the morning and journaling and reading the Bible and going to the gym and meditating. I was waking up at 5 a.m. I was starting work at 5 a.m. I was working until about 6:30, getting in the shower, getting ready, going into the office for the day to do my day job, coming home, spending time with my husband, my daughter, going back to work, and working until I was ready for bed. So that's what I mean. There are different seasons. And I think it's very, very important to be open and honest about
Mm,
acknowledging that, because I think that concept can make people feel really badly when there are different
mm,
seasons of life that allow for different levels of spaciousness. I've been in business since 2012. I have 6 companies. I have presidents, I have executive leaders, I have people running businesses for me. What I'm required to do on a day to day basis today versus a decade ago looks completely different, right? And so I just want to give everyone that gift too, is like, honor the season that you're in,
mm,
and don't feel bad looking at someone else's lifestyle or what stage they're in, because they paid their dues too. It's just sometimes when you see someone's chapter 21, you don't
mm,
recognize what they went through in chapter 1, right?
mm. Yeah, it's really interesting. I used to try and find this one size fits all. It was like, well, I hear like Alex Hormozzi's like said, I just gets up and then gets to work. And then like my other like guy I learned from is like, oh, he's got a 3 hour morning routine, and I'm like, what's the answer? It's just like, but then I learned to realize it's about shaping what works for me. But I really like the added guidance that really kind of hit some like alarm, well, not light bulbs in my head, as I say alarm bells. Then I meant light bulbs in my head then
Yeah.
about actually we've got different seasons as well of
Yeah.
our life. So it's going to
Yeah.
be different at one stage in our life to another. What's going to work for us?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just initially curious of what you find, and sounds like you put a lot of time in for what you're doing now. Running multiple businesses and having people working for you to
Yeah.
do that. You've got this kind of set of tools that really work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. for
This is
sure.
really cool. Love that. So one thing on this podcast is obviously a big topic's confidence and being like scared and fearful of thing. And I've never met any human being who's got like zero fear personally.
Right.
Maybe I'll be proved wrong sometime some point. But I imagine from all the the journey you've been on, there's gonna had to have been some kind of jumps you've made or barriers or things you're a little bit scared of. For the individual who's maybe a little bit like stuck with fear, but they know they want to do something. How do they build up their confidence? Do you find it's a case of taking the action? Is it like the self talk, maybe a bit of both? What's worked for you?
Yeah, well, I think it's two things, right? Number one, confidence is a muscle. And so, just like a muscle that atrophies if you just sit and think but don't do anything, confidence is the same way. You don't build confidence in theory. You build confidence by taking action and then seeing the recognition of progress and capability developing over time through repetition. And so, just keeping in mind that confidence is built over time. Confidence is built through repetition. Confidence can't be built in theory. It is built in taking action and actually seeing your own progression, right? So that's the practical side of it, right? On the mindset side of it, when you think about something that you're, scared of or that's holding you back from taking action, usually it's a little bit of, some anxiety, right? That puts us in this state of
Mm,
paralysis. And, usually if you ask yourself, well, what is the worst thing that can happen if this goes wrong? You're giving up a lot more by not doing the thing than you are risking by doing the thing. And the only way that you
mm,
can walk that through and like play that out is by really asking yourself, by not taking action, what do I give up? By not taking action to follow my dream, what do I give up? I cut off all possibilities that that dream can come true in my life. But on the flip side, if I take action and I try and I fail, what's the worst thing that can happen?
mm,
Right? And usually when you play that out, it's actually not that bad. And the other thing is I think our society is this very like me-centered, me-focused, ego-driven society. No one cares that much. Like a lot of the things that we're afraid to do because we're like, we're going to be judged by this person. We're going to be criticized by that person. This person's going to see me as a failure. This person's going to think this about me. And at the end of the day, no one cares. No one cares. Like you're thinking about something so much more about yourself than these people are. Like they're
mm.
doing their own thing, right? And I think that's the thing to remember too is like there's so much anxiousness so many times about taking action when people are going to have their opinions and judgments of you whether you succeed or whether you fail, whether it goes right or whether it goes wrong,
Mm.
right? Whether it's good or whether it's bad. And so there's nothing that you can do to avoid being criticized. There's nothing you can do to be avoidant of being judged. You have to ask yourself if you're honoring your calling, if you're honoring your, highest and best, and make a decision based on that. I always tell people, you can't play small enough. You can't play small enough to avoid living life and going through all the things that come with that existence.
Mm. Yeah, you're gonna get judged. You're gonna
Yeah,
get that feedback either way.
100%. Either way. Either
Mm.
way. Yeah.
Giving up a lot more than taking the action. I really like that line. What you said there was about.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember it being described to me, and it's like we're our star of our own movie, so we're in our own movie, but other people are starring in their own movie, and they're not really, even though people aren't completely separate, but they're not really caring that much about your movie,
Exactly.
right? That's your movie of your life.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, have that one. So Kelly, I just want to ask you about like perhaps someone who's had or people who've had like an impact in your life, like when you were going through your journey, did you have like coaches and mentors as you were going through, and were there any like ones that gave a particular impact on you as you went through your journey, and how that was
Yeah, I
beneficial
mean,
rather than maybe going alone?
yes, all of the above. Coaches, mentors, all sorts of
Mm,
people. that have been impactful on my journey. But I mean, my number one mentor actually was my boss in corporate America, who was my mentor for over 15 years. And even though I was his top performer, making him the most amount of money, really driving the results in, his area, he was actually the person that encouraged me and said, you cannot sit here in this seat. He's like, you should be on television, you should be on magazines, you need to be out speaking, go out in the world and like share your gift. Like you don't belong here, basically. And he encouraged me to start my own business, even though it meant that he was going to lose me as an employee. And so, yeah, that was definitely very, very impactful on my journey for sure.
Oh wow, man, that's really cool. Kind of like trying to get you to grow, push you out of
Yeah,
your limits,
exactly.
even at the risk of like losing like
Yeah,
his top performer. Wow,
yeah,
it's a
for
really
sure.
powerful one. Because often like I kind of hit like I used to try and go alone. I hear people say, "All right, I'm just going to do it alone," but the power of like a coach or mentor for me has been really
Oh, for
impactful. So
sure.
it's really good to hear
Yeah,
about your one there, an
for
example.
sure.
I
For
love
sure.
it, Kelly. So yeah, Kelly, before we sort of like wrap up today, I just want to ask if there's any final points or maybe point that you want to maybe share that we've talked about, like or something re-emphasize what we talked about, and also where the listener might be able to find more of your work.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I would say is, the person who's going to change everything for you is you.
Mm,
And the only thing that's standing in the way of you is you, right? And so the more that you can just get out of your own way and realize that most of the things that we perceive as being a barrier
mm,
to a dream, a barrier to a level of success, a barrier to where we want to go and what we want to do in life, it's inside, right?
mm,
And so the more that you can be aware of your own thoughts and how much your own thoughts are placing limitations on the level of success that you're achieving, when you become aware of those
mm.
thoughts, you can change those thoughts. And when you change those thoughts, you can change your life. So that is the biggest piece of advice that I would give.
I love that. Yeah, becoming aware of
Yeah.
those thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Powerful. And yeah, stop getting in your own way because
Yep.
those thoughts are doing it.
That's
Brilliant.
it.
Thanks, Kelly. So Kelly,
Yes.
where can the listener find out more about you or get in touch with maybe a
Yeah.
little bit of your work if they want to reach out?
Definitely. Two things. So, one, the Kelly Roach Show. So, there's over 1,000 episodes. I teach about business, marketing, spirituality, family, how to really build your dream life. So, the
Awesome.
Kelly Roach Show is a great place to come if you want to just learn and grow with me. And if you want to reinvent yourself and you want to take a next step on this journey and just kind of open up what could be next for you, I'll send you a link to the reinvention playbook
Yeah,
and you can gift it to anyone who wants to download it. Put it in the link in the show notes below.
brilliant. Yeah, that will be linked up. So you want to get more from Kelly, we've got the links for you. So once again, Kelly, a massive thank you for coming on today and all the value you
Thanks for
shared.
having
I know there's a ton more, so yeah, strong bit of guidance to find out more from Kelly. So once again, thank you, Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
So that concludes our episode for today. And remember, you are in control of your own self esteem and confidence.